guys, welcome to the James Bond Show with Krazy Kajeevie, and that's the new title of the YouTube channel as well. The James Bond Show with Krazy Kajeevie. Did a little bit of a subtle change there. Okay, I am back for I think what is episode 4 of Dissecting the Directing. Now this time I've decided to go through the Pierce Brosnan film Goldeneye. And I say that because I'm not just going to do one, but I'm going to do 2 scenes with Goldeneye. The next scene coming up, you're going to have to wait and see that as a surprise. But this one is where James Bond meets Moneypenny. Now, I've decided to do this scene because I think it is arguably, it pains me to say this because I just want to say, I love Goldeneye. I saw this movie 6 times at the cinema, including the big Melbourne premiere in the city, which was invitation only back in 1995. I love Goldeneye and I've seen it literally hundreds of times. But every time I watch this scene, every time since 1995 to right now in 2020 for 25 years, every time I've watched the film, when I've got to this scene, I thought it is terrible. It is really, really bad in so many ways. And I'm going to take you through, not just as a director, as a former filmmaker, but as a James Bond fan, and explain why I think it's terrible. And my views have even changed over the years in terms of not thinking because I've always thought it was terrible, but changed in the way of I see it, even in a more of an adult maturity. And in the world we live in where feminism is pushed so much. And I see more of that now in this scene. So let's start, let's have a look. So director Martin Campbell. Now I want to say, obviously, Martin Campbell, Casino Royale and Goldeneye, 2 fantastic Bond films. He's one of my favourite James Bond film directors, even though his style of direction is manic. The guy is a crazy man, but more than that, probably in a Casino Royale breakdown. He's a very good director. He does a little bit too much TV style for me, too much reverse angle, close up, a little bit too TV for me. But he is a wonderful director and he's got a great energy about his film. So he directed this, but I think this is the one scene in the entire film where it's just between script, acting, and his direction, it's completely lost. Let's have a look. So we start off in a wide angle shot here showing England. So we're establishing that this is MI6 and we're in London, which is the wise thing to do. And then we'll go into the scene.
Good evening, Moneypenny.
Good evening, James. And we'll meet you in the Situation Room. I'm to take you straight in.
Never seen you after hours, Moneypenny. Lovely.
Thank you, James.
Okay, so I let that play a little bit, but now I'm going to take you through. Let's go back a little bit, because there's a couple of interesting things here to note. Now, what I like, by the way, incredible model miniature work here. But what I like, so we've got the moving bus here. Now see how the director, Martin Campbell, keeps Bond. We've got a moving object. He keeps the motion going through scene and he's got Bond moving straight away. So I really like this. If you just go from an inanimate object or into an inanimate object from a moving object, it can be a bit jarring. So I love the way he's got Bond. It may seem like little or not much, but it's the little things like that that makes scenes work. So, of course, there are things in this scene that work, but there's a few that are bad. Now, the one that I've really noticed in going back over this, and I watched this scene probably about 10 times in preparation for this video, and what I really noticed is, as soon as Bond comes in here, so he's left a frame, he comes in, he's greeted by Moneypenny. Now, at this stage in the film, we hadn't yet seen M, so we hadn't seen her. Now, we all knew there was a female M in Goldeneye. Of course, some went in knowing about Judi Dench. But it's interesting to set this up because we also, at this stage of the film, have not seen Moneypenny yet either. And this is how we're introduced to her almost, oh, is she the new M? See how they've got Moneypenny now turned into a little bit of power and they've actually got her in M's office. So Bond walks in, comes to M's office. Now we know straight away this is going to be M's office, even though it's obviously very different from M's office in License to Kill, The Living Daylights, and Octopussy, with Robert Brown playing M. And we see a lady in there, so immediately, if you're a non-Bond fan, you could assume, oh, this is the female M. And she's on the left of frame, he's now in right, he's come from left, he's on right. So we open up this section of frame and we see Miss Moneypenny, but at this stage we don't know who she is.
Good evening, Moneypenny.
So of course, boom, straight up, she's at the office, he says, good evening, Moneypenny, and we know that's not in fact him, that is now Moneypenny. She's looking at him, the eye line's perfect, the height here is perfect, so Martin Campbell has set this up really, really nice.
Good evening, James.
Now she says, good evening, James, so she's being a bit personable. It's not 007, it's good evening, James. So notice, as soon as James Bond makes his funny quip, notice how Moneypenny goes from a kind of semi-relaxed good evening, James, to what she says next.
And we'll meet you in the Situation Room. I'm to take you straight in.
Never seen you after hours, Moneypenny. Lovely.
Thank you, James.
Now, I'm going to get to my point in a minute about how she changes. But Bond says, never seen you after hours. Lovely. He's being nice. She's kind of being gracious. Look how quickly she turns.
Out on some kind of professional assignment? Dressing to kill?
So Bond's obviously having a bit of fun. My issue here is also, from right here, the delivery by Pierce Brosnan, which I think he's probably been instructed to by Martin Campbell, is it's not fun enough. I think he should have been in a little, what I would have done is had him in a little bit close to her, maybe a little cheeky whisper, and continued that camaraderie from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. But this entire scene, to me, as both a director and as a fan, this has the stamp of what we now know is the origins of Barbara Broccoli's feminism. Now, recently in an interview, director Kerry Fukunaga, who's directed No Time to Die, came out and said that Barbara Broccoli has been pushing feminism ever since Goldeneye, and now in No Time to Die, she's ramped it up. So you do see clear aspects of feminism and trying to make the woman look macho and tough, and Bond as though he is some sort of sexist misogynist, which is obviously put in the dialogue. And of course, M has now been changed to a woman. In fairness too, in reality, M was also a woman at the time Goldeneye was made too. Let's have a look how she changes now.
You'll find this crushing 007. When I don't...
Okay, now there's my point. So she's gone from James, saying James, in almost like a motherly, nice way, to suddenly 007. So now it's like gone from kind of happy and cool to informal and bringing this attitude out towards him. So almost like it's impersonable now. Let's go back and have a little look so we can see that now in context after I've explained it.
Good evening, Moneypenny.
Good evening, James. And we'll meet you in the Situation Room. I'm to take you straight in.
Never seen you after hours, Moneypenny. Lovely.
Thank you, James.
Out on some kind of professional assignment? Dressing to kill?
And you can see what I would have done there. I would have actually just instructed her just to wait a little bit more. If she does want a bit more venom, I'd just probably, or like she's standing against him, I would have just had her wait a little more, look him up and down a bit, and then come out with her lines.
You'll find this crushing 007. When I don't sit at home every night praying for some international incident, so I can run down here all dressed up to impress James Bond. I was on a date, if you must know, with a gentleman. We went to the theatre together.
Moneypenny, I'm devastated. What would I ever do without you?
As far as I can remember, James, you've never had me.
Now, all this, overall, to me, in my opinion, this is fine up until this point. This is now where the scene gets really bad, in my opinion. You'll see that Brosnan, after Moneypenny says, you've never had me, I think that I would have instructed Brosnan to laugh with that, to have a joke with that. For some reason, Bond almost seems like he's offended at that. And I think maybe she could have said it probably just a touch lighter, but it wasn't terrible. Her delivery wasn't terrible. But the way now he's directed and his performance here, it's almost turning this into a scene from, I can't remember the name of it, it might have been The Offence, the film with Jodie Foster, where she was raped and then another actress played Jodie Foster's lawyer, or one of them was raped and Jodie Foster was in it. This is what this scene feels like to me. And I saw that film actually many, many years ago back at high school for some class or something. And this is almost what this is like. And it feels so out of place in this film so far and even in this franchise series. You see, he's looked at her so seriously. It gets worse though, but he looks at her quite seriously.
So I can run down here all dressed up to impress James Bond. I was on a date, if you must know, with a gentleman. We went to the theatre together.
Moneypenny, I'm devastated. What would I ever do without you?
As far as I can remember, James, you've never had me.
See, serious look, walks off. He could have played up the humour here. But again, I think this is Barbara Broccoli's stamp of feminism all over this and creating a tension between these two, which isn't welcome. It just wasn't needed.
Hope springs eternal.
You know, this sort of...
Now, we got a slight little sneaky smile there, which is okay, thank goodness. You know, there's a little bit there, right? But they're so tight together. So this is basically the director, Martin Campbell's got them in what you would call a two-shot, a probably medium-wide two-shot where almost both can be semi-close-up as well. But he's got her so close to her, he's kind of standing over her. And I think that is, instead of just having Bond more left of frame and Moneypenny more right of frame, I think that's to create the tension over them and almost like the male dominant figure is trying to dominate her and stand over her, which I don't think is right. I would have had him a little bit further away, maybe leaning with a cheeky smile and a wink to her, so we knew there was still fun between them.
behaviour could qualify as sexual harassment.
Now, of course, we come to this line.
Hope springs eternal.
You know, this sort of behaviour could qualify as sexual harassment.
That is Barbara Broccoli's feminism all over this film.
Really? What's the penalty for that?
Someday you have...
Now, he's semi-light, a little bit of a wink, he smiles there, and she comes out with a cool line of, someday you have to make good on your innuendo. That's okay, it's recovering, And then, oh boy, does it take a horrible dive. Let's go.
to make good on your
Penalty for that?
Someday you have to make good on your innuendos.
Now, right there, we've cut here, so the door's open. They've cut to this angle. It's basically almost like the same angle, but from the different side. So they're still like in a medium wide. He's slightly closer here. He's still standing over here. Here is where it could have been capped off with fun and humour. But this acts the way Brosnan... Well, you know what? Let's watch it and then I'll talk about it.
After you, Moneypenny.
Okay, so Bond's kind of quite cool. After you, Moneypenny. Nothing too wrong with that. Now suddenly she acts as though he has sexually harassed her.
No, I insist. You first.
So the you first, it's too blunt a delivery. As a director, I would have said, no, Samantha Bond. I would have said, Samantha, lighten this up a bit. But this was obviously Martin Campbell under the influence of Barbara Broccoli to really create tension here. Now, even though her line wasn't shocking, it was still a bit too hard. But if you have a look at the reaction of Pierce Brosnan's James Bond here, it is terrible. He looks so pissed, so dejected, as though she's going to run off to M or whoever and report him for sexual harassment. This is not how James Bond should be treated on screen, not by Moneypenny. So let's go back, guys, and we'll have a complete look at this from the get-go.
Good evening, Moneypenny.
Good evening, James. And we'll meet you in the Situation Room. I'm to take you straight in.
Never seen you after hours, Moneypenny. Lovely.
Thank you, James.
How about some
I like the fluent movement of the camera. It only stops really when the actors
kind of
stop as
professional
well.
assignment? Dressing to kill?
You'll find this crushing, 007. But I don't sit at home every night praying for some international incident so I can run down here all dressed up to impress James Bond. I was on a date, if you must know, with a gentleman. We went to the theatre together.
Now you notice too, Bond's on the right, you know, he's been the nice guy, he's been cool and a bit fun, right? He's on the right of frame, he switched across earlier, he's on the right. Now suddenly, when the accusations come of sexual harassment, Bond is on the left, she's on the right. Left, right, you getting it?
Moneypenny, I'm devastated. What would I ever do without you?
As far as I can remember, James, you've never had me.
Hope springs eternal.
You know, this sort of behaviour could qualify as sexual harassment.
Really? What's the penalty for that?
Someday you have to make good on your innuendos.
And again, the scene overall isn't bad until this point. It's the end of this section, and I think I'll just comment on the lighting here. I think it's a little bit grim too, the lighting. I think that could have been pepped up, and I think their performances could have been pepped up with a little bit of a wink, a little bit of a smile, instead of Bond being basically treated like he's a sex pest.
After you, Moneypenny.
No, I insist. You first.
Now this look here, the way he responds to that, okay, it's a crappy way she's treating him, but the way he's responding to that, oh, it's not good. Now, thank goodness, Martin Campbell and with his editor, they have cut right as Bond's walked off. If you notice, they've cut into this scene here. So they cut really, boom. They cut before we get to see Moneypenny's reaction, and I'm so grateful for that because her reaction would have made this scene more terrible, I think, looking at him as though he was a sex pest. So I think that's really interesting how they've cut it so quickly instead of showing her leaving left of frame or coming into the room, whatnot. Guys, I'd love to know what you guys think of my dissecting the directing on this episode. If you're new to the channel or if you're a regular and you still haven't subscribed, please smash that subscribe button. And please, guys, drop a like on the video as well. And more importantly, leave in the comments section the scene you would most... By the way, my dog Obi's just come in here, so if you can hear that heavy panting, that's Obi. He's come for a cuddle. He's decided about 17 minutes is too long for me not to give him a cuddle, so he's come to me. So guys, leave a comment. Let me know in the comment section below what scene you would love me to dissect next. And I'll see you next time at the James Bond Show. Until then, keep on bonding and say hi to your mama for me.